Hi guys, Elaine here. Happy Saturday. Thanks for joining in on a Saturday. It's great to have you guys here with me. So today I'm gonna discuss about why UI and UX is important in Power Apps. So let's get started. First of all, I would like to thank all our sponsors for sponsoring this event. Without the sponsors and you guys and the presenters, this would not have happened. Next, I would like to also acknowledge our traditional custodians of the land on which this online conference is hosted, and the traditional custodians of the land where our Australian-based speakers and participants are located. I also like to pay respect to our elders, past, present, and future. So even though this is an online event, let's all be kind, be respectful, be helpful with each other. So this conference is dedicated to provide a harassment-free conference for everyone. It doesn't matter what is your gender, your identity, expression, race, physical appearance, ethnicity, and technology choices. I have some technology choices, but then I will not say out loud here because I'm respecting the code of conduct. This is the quick version. If you want to read more about it, you can go to the link below and you can read more about the code of conduct of this conference. So next, you guys pick up your phone now, scan this QR code because there's a lucky draw going on. I'll just give you a few seconds to do it. There's prizes, so just quickly do it now. Or else I'll also show this again, this QR code again at the end of the presentation. So I'll just leave you guys for a few seconds to do this. Okay, let's move on. So if you want to connect with me, these are all my, basically my social media and my email. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, or you can just email me at my email address if you have any questions. So this is a presentation overview. I'm going to cover what's the definition of UI and UX, why is it important in Power Apps, and then we also go through some design considerations and demo examples. And lastly, we have a Q&A session. So for this session, please leave your questions at the Q&A board and I'll take it right at the end of the presentation. Okay, just a disclaimer, I'm not a UI expert. So this content is solely based on all my research and experience in implementing and building Power Apps. So if you guys doesn't agree with some of the things I say, it's all good because everyone have their own experience, have done their own research, and feel free to let me know if you have any opinions on some of the content that I present, because I like to share and like to discuss this with everyone because it's good to share and it's good because then I'll also improve my knowledge. So let's get started. So what's UI and UX? I guess everyone is very familiar with this terminology. UI is basically the design, user interface, the graphical kind of like layout and such, how the buttons are placed, the colors, maybe some animations, and etc. And UX is basically the user experience, provides where you actually create a product that actually provide a good relevant experience to the customer. So this is a very good representation of what UI and UX is. I actually got this off the internet. It's a depict of what a key thing what UI and UX is. So the story behind this is a mom who is I think she's a designer or marketeer, I can't remember, but then she was explaining to her daughter what is UI and UX, and she told her mom, oh, so does that mean that the UI is my bicycle and UX is my experience riding the bicycle, which I thought is a really good way to represent what UI and UX is. So now, why is it important in Power Apps? So I don't know how many of you out here in the audience actually have done Power Apps, have built Power Apps. So in this presentation, I'm focusing more on the Canvas app and the model-driven app. So if you are like me, who came from a background of 10 years of experience in software development and coming from CRM4, in the past, UI and UX is not important, right? All we do is most of the time we build based on a requirement, as long as it meets the requirement, and there's not much you can do with out-of-the-box CRM those days anyway. There's not much you can customize. Everything you need to build HTML pages, you need to do XRM, you need to build web resources, and etc. So there's not much you can do with it. But now with powerups, it kind of open doors, especially with Canvas app, because you can go free flow. You can kind of put in whatever design based on your creativity that you want. And because of that, you have opened doors to a lot of things, and we have to start considering UI and UX in our builds now. So how many of you have experienced this? Whether you're a customer or you are a consultant, implementer, I'm sure you have seen this, right? With someone complaining that, oh no, the system is bad, the columns are not right, I don't want this blue color. Why don't I have traffic light to mark what is urgent? Why I have so many fields to enter? Why is there so many compulsory fields? And I myself is guilty of those. So when I download an app and use the app as well, I'll be like, oh, I don't like this app. The color's not good. The user experience bad. I'll download another app. Or you might be using a legacy system and you think like, oh, this is crap. But actually, it might not be. The features are there. The functions are there. It does what you need it to do. But just because it doesn't look nice, you don't feel good using it. So that's why UI and UX is very important when you build Power Apps. So basically, this is a summary of it, right? Why we need to build UI and UX in Power Apps. It provides Power Apps users a great experience in terms of navigation, look and feel, without compromising the features and functions that you have. So how many times have you gone to a client with a system that is fully built, meet every user story and requirement you have, but yet your client tell you that, nah, this is not what I want. And then you switch it up a bit, make it from 3 sections to 2 sections, 3 tab to 2 tab, move the buttons around, remove all the fields that they don't need on the form, and they were like, oh yeah, this is what we need. But you have not made any changes basically. All you do is change the look and feel of it. So that's what I'm trying to get to here. So this is basically what I call the 5 pillars of design considerations. There's a target audience, visibility, responsive, consistency, and of course, error prevention and recognition. So I'll go through this one by one, and I'll show a demo as well. So let's talk through the first one, target audience. So when you design your UI, first you have to know who is your target audience. Who are you building this for? Is it a professional environment? Are you building for education, for schools? Is it for kids? And why are you building it? What problem you are trying to solve? What value does it bring to your clients? And what language you should be using? So these are all really important. Why I say language, right? When I say language, I don't mean just English or English, Polish, Vietnamese, Chinese, those kind of language. It's like the language you use. Use user-friendly terms that the user understand. Like, don't use a system name as a field name, right? Many a times we see some people build the fields and they don't even care to put spaces in it. For instance, if you say the field name, more description, they just put it in one string, more description, or just concat the whole system name there with like maybe test underscore more descriptions. Use language that the user understands, that is relevant to the business. So I have one example here for point 1. So this is an app built by a team called PowerNap. So they built this in a Hack for Good MBAS, which happened last week. Basically, we told them the objective is to build an app for COVID-19, how it can help the society. So they decided to go on a team where they built an app that could help parents homeschool their kids, that could help kids have activities, and then a live board that basically they're able to chat with teachers and etc. So why I'm showing this example, because if you look at the UI here, this is meant for kids. So I think it's a good UI, a good user interface and user experience over here. I can't say about the overall experience, but definitely a good user interface, because when kids look at it, they get attracted to use it. You know, it's all about attracting someone, the user, to use your app. So this is, I think, a very good interface for kids. There's colors, there's cartoons around, the buttons are easy to see, they know where to click, there's visibility, and I think there is music as well, if you can hear it. I'm not sure you can hear it, but yeah, they have put in some very catchy tunes as well when you turn on the app. So it kind of attracts kids to do it. And then in their demonstration, they also have used kids as their audience, which I think is really good, because if you build apps for kids, you have to make sure that your kids will try it out and will use it. Next example I have here is a model-driven app. So why I'm showing this model-driven app, right? So this is probably something you built for a call center or for a customer, for maybe a marketing department and etc., where they want to enter information about the customers and such. So here we chose a model-driven app. So what I'm showing here is because sometimes we have to know whether to choose a Canvas app or the model-driven app as well. Not every scenario or every business scenario or requirement you have requires the use of a Canvas app. Like in this case, I want to work on in a computer as well as maybe on my tablet. And using model-driven app, it kind of gives you both the experience and it gives you a consistent user experience as well. So if you see here, what I've done is I've also put up a highlight here where the address view. So this is what I mean by language, right? So this customer here is, this person here is running a business for Australia, in Australian market, right? So he basically supplies casks and etc. to the wineries, and Pinot Noir is one of his customers. So if I have Australian-based customers, I would want my address to be formatted in the Australian format, which is like street 1, street 2, suburb, city, postal code. And it looks more user-friendly compared to address street 1, street 3, state or province, zip, which is not actually applicable. And probably I don't want to need country in there because it's obviously Australia, right? It's by default, all my customers are in Australia. It's different for different use case. So if I have international business, I might prefer the address on the right, on the left, because that is suits every geographical regions that you have. So there's a very good quote here that I want to quote. It says, if you want to fall in love with the design, fall in love with the users. So always put yourself in the shoe of the users of what they want to see in the system. So I'll just quickly show you my demonstration as well. So I have this Pinot Noir open. So as you can see here, I've created two forms. So just to show you the difference, right? So this is more of an out-of-the-box form. It has every field, you have the map and etc. But it also has fields that the user probably not use, like facts. And then obviously it has country, and then it has, and then zip and postal code. So as a user, if I look at this, I'll be like, oh, there's so many fields to enter. I don't even need address street 3. Why do I have address street 3? Where's my suburb? And I don't know how to use it. It gets confusing. Whereas if I just make a little change over here and only put in the fields or the information that I need, and maybe add on this quick view here to show the company information as well, change up the address, just put whatever relevant field in address. It gives a user a better user experience. So this is what we mean by UI and UX. So same goes for the tabs here. Maybe not everyone would like to have 3 tabs. Maybe some people find it too clunky, too many things, and they just want to reduce it to two tabs where you have both of these merged with your timeline. So there's no actually right or wrong about it. from my experience, every customer wants something different. The more important thing is they don't like to see white spaces, too many white spaces. They don't like to have fields that is not required on the form. They probably want the banner to represent their company color, and they want a left navigation that easy to see and easy to use. So it's basically user by user basis, but the guideline is the same, right? The principle is the same. It should actually meet your target audience. It should provide a value to your target audience. So let's go back to my slide now. So I'm just going to go a bit back and forth here because I want to show, because I want to actually go through every pillar and go through a demo. So the next one we have is visibility. So with visibility, we talk a lot about intuitiveness, usability, and minimalism. So how intuitive is your app? How usable it is? Minimalism is by not having too many fields on the form, maybe have tabs instead, have collapsed sections. Because you know when you have built apps, right, especially Canvas apps, you have to cater for your mobile phone as well, and the screen is really small. But then you don't want to lose the experience when you're on a tablet. So you just have to be smart around it. So for this, I have built a Canvas app. As an example, let me just show you. Just bear with me for a bit. There you go. So, okay, what I have here is I built an app called May 365. Okay. Hello. So while it's loading, what I did was I built a simple Canvas app just to show you that you can put tabs and the difference it makes when you have some tabs and collapse sections and etc. Yeah. So as you can see here, this is kind of like an event registration app that I have here. So very important is that when you have an app, when a person opens the app, they know how to use it. So like if you look at the app here, it's all these familiar buttons. I know that this is a hamburger. When I click on it, you know, you have a menu appearing. And then these are tabs that I can actually click on. On the right-hand side, I'm able to see what are the topics that I have submitted. Bin here, which I know if I click on it, I can delete the topic. And when I submit, I'm able to submit it and save this into the system. So this is what I meant by intuitive design, minimalist design. So imagine if I do not have tabs, right? This is not many fields here, but if I have a lot of fields, then I have my topic details into my personal info as well. Then the whole screen will look very clunky. So for me, I like something like that, really simple. Personal info, just enter my first name, last name, email address, upload my image. When I'm done, I enter my topic details, enter my description, and I click add and it will go. And here, obviously, I can see the list of details. There's not much scrolling. There's not much moving around. And once I'm done, I can just submit. Or if I want to go back to a previous page or home, I just go to next or back. So this is what I meant by intuitive design. So now let me go back. Right. Okay. So next we talk about responsiveness, right? Here is we talk about animation, reaction, what reaction the app gives you. So when I say animation, I don't mean building cartoons, you know, like I know when we talk about animation, people think about games and Mario Brothers, maybe, I don't know, Shark Doo-Doo-Doo or something of those lines with lots of music and stuff. So I don't mean that. What I mean animation here is more like something, a reaction that the app gives you. Like for instance, if I load a page, there is a loading spinner appearing instead of me waiting for the app not knowing whether it has crashed or it has freeze, or maybe you have a loading progress bar while while you're saving the data. Buttons that change colors, probably, like maybe start is red, end is green. It kind of gives some sort of like a reaction. And also responsiveness is very important if you're building app with accessibility. If you want to build app that cater for people with special needs, who have special conditions, like maybe they are partially blind, responsive is very important, because then maybe you have features like when you enter information into the app, it converts into speech, or maybe you have certain colors, like you don't put blue and red together if a person is colorblind. So, well, obviously my color scheme here is not very good. It looks good to me, but probably not very good if somebody have colorblind. So yeah, these are things that include in responsiveness. So let me just show you an example over here. Okay, so for instance, if I want to submit my app and I click on submit over here, let's say I just remove this, I'll click on submit. And well, then this is how it is, right? It's just static. I don't even know what's happening. So as a user, I'll be like, oh, has it submitted? There's no success banner, there's no loading, is it still doing anything? Should I close my app, enter again? So you confuse the users. So that's not good, right? As a user, I wouldn't like it. So what if, let me go to the next one. So I've built a second app just for this purpose. Same thing, I've entered this, and then if I submit, you have a spinning bar. So once it's done, you say, thank you for registering. So I'm happy, like, oh yeah, I've done it. All good now. So that is what I'm saying. So if there's error, it should show there's error. That it needs to be responsive. You don't need to build very fancy loading and stuff. Honestly, I didn't build that loading spinner at all. I downloaded it from a website called loading.io. Yep, loading.io. But of course, if you're fancy and stuff, you can build your own, loading screen. Other things you can consider is when you click a button. So if I come back here, I'll just show it to you. If you look at a button, when I click on topic detail, when I click on personal info, it comes to this tab. This tab changes in color. So I know that I'm in a different tab. Because if it's the same color, I might get confused. I don't know where I am. So it's little things like that, yeah, that actually matters. Also, when it comes to icon, look at this, like this is home icon. When I look at it, I know it's home, next page. I mean, it's confusing if I go next page and then I put instead of putting an arrow button, maybe I put some, I don't know, some figure face on there, or some apple or orange. I mean, this doesn't make sense. Things have to just make sense. Things same like submit button as well. This is very obvious, it's submit, not the most fancy one, but when you look at it, you kind of know, oh yeah, this is submit button. And same for upload images here. When I hover my mouse across, you see the color changes. Just little things like that, little aesthetics that let the user know, that provides a reaction to the user, so the user know what they are doing. Okay, so now let's go to the next pillar. So next pillar we have here is about consistency. So this is more about the design and aesthetic as well. So like the words you use, the color, the branding, the action, it has to be consistent. Like your error messages, it has to be consistent. So for instance, if you have, if you're using, like what I'm using is cornflower blue. Yeah, I know, fancy cornflower blue, but I love that blue. It's my favorite color. So on every page of the app, you have to follow a consistent theme. If you have like cornflower blue banner on one screen and then pink on the other, it doesn't have a consistency. It doesn't give a branding to it. Same go for words, right? Same goes for the words you use. If you use submit on the submit button, then use submit for every submit button. If you use submit in one button, save in another, little things like that. We don't realize that it matters, but it does. Like as we build it, we're like, Well, it's obvious, right? Submit is safe. Safe is safe. But as a user, if you go through a few screens like that, it confuses them, and you kind of, it doesn't give you a very good experience. Like, put yourself in your shoe. When you use it, always think that if you are the user, how would you feel? So the next one that I want to talk about is the last one, which is error prevention and recognition. So I realize I'm actually running kind of rush now. I have 4 more minutes, but this is a quick one. So for error, same thing here. Imagine there's no error message, right? When I click on this, nothing happens. It doesn't add my topic here, but it also doesn't tell me why it doesn't add into it. So as a user, I get lost, like, well, what's happening now? Same goes for if you just have a generic error message. If you click add and you just say not saving, you'll be like, what? Why is it not saving? I don't know why is it not saving, right? So if you have a proper error message, like over here, let's say I don't have this, and I click and it says please enter description. At least I know that, oh, okay, now I need to enter description. How to use powerups. Then when I click add, well, for some reason it's not working now, but yeah, it should work. Well, anyway, this description should go away, and then it should add to the menu on the right hand side. But that's where I'm getting at, right? Have proper error messages. Don't just use system error messages. Sometimes we forget and we just have error message at prompt error 404, and I don't know what does it mean. Like, if I as a builder doesn't know what it means, how we expect users to know? And users get panicked. We know that. Like, as a user, I get panicked as well. If my system computer throw up an error 404, I'll be jumping. Be like, what happened? I'll call Lenovo, or I'll be like, shit, Windows has problems. So it's the same thing with apps. Okay. So now let's just go down here. These are some of the things to ponder upon. So as a summary, we cannot decouple UI from UX. Both are important. You cannot just have UI or UX as two different things. It has to be the same. Striking and over-the-top UI does not mean good UX. You have the most fancy button, the most fancy progress bar, but it doesn't mean it provides a good user experience. The button needs to have meaning. The progress bar needs to mean something, needs to tell the user something. So good UI and UX is driven by users' needs. So this is very important because it's important to map your UI and UX requirements, back to your UI and UX. So what we normally do is we do a mapping. If user says, hey, I want it to auto-calculate the date, so that will drive my UI and UX. Should I have a field that for them to enter how many days they want to calculate, or should I have 2 days date fields, things like this. And lastly, this is more for us developers and consultants. We always emphasize on building a good database, but we forgot sometimes about the front-end design. So both are equally important. Both needs to be taken into factor when you build. So lastly, if you have any questions, drop in the Q&A board. I'll check now. And I'll just show this screen again in case you have forgotten or you came in late, and I don't mean forgotten, as in you joined in late and you haven't scanned. So there's a competition going on. Scan your QR code, and then there's a lucky draw. So let me just check if there's any questions. Yep. So there's 2 questions here. Mike asks, is this powerup form or native thing in Dynamics 365? Hi, Mike. Which one do you mean? So the model-driven app that I'm showing you, that is a native form. So if I quickly flick my slide across. So this one over here, okay. This one is a native form. If you create a model-driven app, it will come with some main forms, and this is more or less how it looks like. This one is a powerups form, canvas app form, which you build as you want to. So same for the app I've shown as well. So I hope that answers your question. How do you keep up to date with design trends to keep current? So this is an interesting question. So I actually spoke to my designer in my project before I come onto this presentation. So what he tells me is that UI and UX guideline and pillars is always the same. Like it doesn't change for over the years. It's the same considerations that we are using. Probably what changes is more of technology. So technology gets better, right? Like now you have remote assist. You have things like maybe robotics. You just have more and more features, and you incorporate that in as well as part of the user experience. Like probably now, if you go to IKEA, you can use an app to remote assist app, and you can include that feature in where someone could actually come by and then put on your home and see how actually the furniture looks like in your house. So you incorporate that as part of your experience. So I hope that answers the question. What is the most common UI mistakes that you see people are making? From my experience, I think a lot to do with naming conventions and what you actually see. So, for example, in model-driven apps, right, you have wheels. Wheels are like listings where you have columns. A lot of times we don't care about what we see on the wheel. We just think that if we give a customer a wheel, it will be useful to them. We forgot that maybe there are some things that customer want to see, because that's the first thing they see when they open the screen, right? When you see a list or a report on the screen, maybe I want to see the name and the status. But as a person who built, sometimes we don't think about it. We just go ahead, oh, they want a wheel, so I give you a wheel. We just tend to forget little things like this. Like if you have a wheel that says, show me all the contacts owned by Elaine, I don't actually need an owner field, you know what I mean? Because I know obviously it's owned by me, so I should remove it. So next question is, the one you showed earlier in presentation that contains city plus address. Oh, okay. From Mike, I think you're trying to say, okay, so the one that I show city and address, yes, that is out of the box. That comes with a model-driven app. So that's how it is. What are your thoughts on responsive layout in Power Apps? Hey, John. I have a lot of thoughts about responsive layout in Power Apps. So I don't really like responsive layout. So there's a lot of considerations need to be taken upon, like how the button would look, how the screen, because when the screen size change, the button size needs to change, and etc. There's a lot of testing needs to be done. I personally not a big fan, though I know that it's supposed to be good, but I think sometimes it kind of screw up with the design of my form. Nikki, what is the best way to learn Power Apps? Hey, Nikki, there's a lot of there's a lot of kind of community blogs out there. There's Microsoft Learn. There's a lot of resources on LinkedIn. If you drop me a message in my email, I can send you all the information that you need to get started with Power Apps, Nikki. So my email is me@elaine.com. If you drop me a message, I'll just reply to you, or just drop me a message on LinkedIn as well if you want to. Any recommended resource? Yes, yes, Nikki, if you send me a message, drop me a message in LinkedIn, I'll just send you, I wrote an article about it before, I'll just send you the link to my article. Just drop me a message either in LinkedIn or Twitter or my email address. My Power Apps sucks in responsive. I have no comment on that. It's better now compared to previously where there was none. But yeah, there's still more work to be done. So I actually overran by 5 minutes. Is there any more questions? Right, if there's no questions, thank you. I hope you guys enjoy my session. I'm just gonna flash out my contact details again. So here is how you can contact me. Nikki, just drop me a message anywhere in this channel, and then I'll send you the links to how to get started in Power Apps. So thanks again for joining me and hearing my discussion about this topic. It's something very close to me because I have seen many a times the implementation where we actually ignore this and get a lot of complaints from users, and how we just need to change the way our mentality works when we build apps. So thank you. Bye.